of your dog, but it's definitely missing some falling leaves, you can add those in with a leaf overlay. Now, as you add this into your image, some of it is going to look fantastic and some of it needs to be tweaked. So let's break down how you can fix this to make it look more realistic. The first thing you need to know is that you can change the orientation of these leaves if it doesn't suit the image. So all you're going to do is go up to Edit, and you're going to come down to the transform button, at which point you can rotate 180 degrees, 90 degrees, flip horizontal, vertical, however you need to do it to lay this out properly. Now, as you are taking your photos of your dog is going to be in focus. So anything on that plane needs to be realistic leaf size and is going to be less blurry than the others. So you're looking for those leaves that make sense near your dog. What size is going to be appropriate? This size will not be appropriate near your dog, and so you may need to adjust this. You can click Command T, and that is going to bring up your ability to make this bigger or smaller to assess it with the size of your dog. So you can even change it so that it makes more sense with how it is going to look inside of that photo. Maybe you don't need the entire thing. Maybe you do want to pull that up so it's a little bit bigger, a little bit differently sized. Now all of a sudden that does look a little bit better than what it was before, right? So you do need to play around with it just a little bit to make sure that it makes sense. When it is done with the transformation process, now we're going to tweak this a little bit. We can change the coloring. We can change where the leaves are touching the dog. So if you look right here with Lucy's shoulder, we have a leaf that's in front of her. I actually like that it's falling in front of her, but let's pretend that we didn't. Let's pretend we wanted that leaf to fall behind her. All I have to do is add a layer mask. It looks like a rectangle with a little circle there, and I'm making sure that my layer mask is going to be selected. From there, I'm going over to that left side toolbar, and I'm going to click on my brush tool. Now I can change my brush tool from hard round to soft round. You're gonna want soft round for this, and you can change the sizing here. You can also use the bracket keys on your keyboard. And you're gonna look down here at the colors. White is painting on, black is painting off. You can click on the arrows to toggle it, or you can use the X button on your keyboard. And at that point, you're just going to paint off anything that is over top of the dog that you do not want there. So I am just removing that there, but oh no, we can see I've gone a little too overboard on that. So I'm just gonna make that brush a little bit smaller, toggle it back to the white, and then I can just paint on wherever I need to. So now that leaf is falling behind Lucy. Now I personally like it the way that it was, so I'm gonna add it back in, and I am going to add that there. And like I just did, you can actually remove it entirely. So let's say I don't like this yellow one above her head. Maybe I just remove the entire thing. I do not have to have the entirety of those leaves where they are here inside of this overlay. Now, let's say this yellow leaf is going to be a little too bright for me. I am going to be able to grab my lasso tool, and I am just going to lasso around this one leaf here. From there, I'm coming down to my options, and I am going to click on my brightness and contrast. And before I even touch my brightness and contrast sliders, I'm going to right click on the brightness and contrast, and I'm going to click Create Clipping Mask. That means it's only going to affect the layer beneath it. And because I circled that leaf, it's not going to play with any of my other leaves. So now I can bump my brightness down and blend it in a little bit, or I can go to the opposite side and bump that up. Now, I personally kind of liked where the yellow was, so I'm going to move that back just a little bit. You can also change your contrast on this so that it's more contrasty or less contrasty to blend with what you have created. And then if you like it, you can leave it. If you don't like it, toggle it off and it's not going to affect it anymore. So from there, you are going to go through and assess all of your different leaves. Now, in some cases, you may find that things are a little too crisp. The ones right around Lucy are supposed to be pretty crisp because they're on the same plane as her, but maybe I don't like it like that. Maybe I need it to move just a little bit. So now I have some more options. I'm gonna go ahead and remove my brightness and contrast that I'm not using. And what I'm going to do next is show you how to tweak this just a little bit. So I'm going to duplicate this layer. You can if you want. If you wanna make sure this is non-destructive, you can go ahead and duplicate that and turn one off. Then you're gonna right click, and you are going to transform this to a smart object if you've tinkered with it. If you haven't tinkered with it, it should be fine. And then we are going to go up to our filter tab. Now from filter, we're going down to blur, and you have two options here. Gaussian blur, and that is going to give you this same blur that you see right here. It is closer to the lens, and so it is going to be out of focus because the focus is further back on your dog. Gaussian blur is fantastic, and that is like a snap in real time. However, some of you might want a little bit of motion, and that's where motion blur comes in. When motion blur pops up, now you have the ability to change the angle at which this motion is going to come into play, and then you're just going to bump up your slider here. And so you can see how that changed the background already and the angle that it's going to be motion blurred in. Now that's a little bit too much. We don't want it quite that much. And so you're going to have to play with this and move it back and forth to where it's going to make sense for the image that you are creating. So if you want it to look like an action shot, you're going to add a little bit of that motion blur and you're going to decide which angle that is going to be moved in. Now, if you do not want them all moving the same way, because maybe the wind is not blowing the same way for everything, you can come in and you can highlight the ones that you want to go one way, and then you're just going to be able to left click or a right click on that, and you can do a layer via copy, and that's going to copy it to a new layer, secondary layer here, and then you're going to have to remove them from the original. So go back into that layer mask, and you are just going to paint over that. Let me go ahead and turn that top layer off. So I'm going to paint over the two that I just grabbed. Now they're gone, but they're on a separate layer. So I can change the direction that that's going to go in. So now I have leaves falling. You can actually change those overlays, duplicate them, and put them in different angles, rotate them 180 and make them smaller, bigger, whatever you need to kind of fill out the image that you are creating and make it that really beautiful fall photo that you have taken. But please keep in mind, if you have taken this beautiful fall photo and there are no leaves on the ground, you're probably not getting a lot of leaves in the air either. So either be sparing with the leaves that are in the air, or you're going to have to add some leaves into the grass. So be mindful of that as you're taking your photo, as you're planning your photo, and expand on what you are doing to make sure it is a realistic looking image. We don't have a shower of leaves coming down if there's no leaves on the ground. So pick wisely, less leaves in the air, or add some into the ground in post as you are creating your image of your dog. Drop your questions on this down below and follow along. There's a full playlist teaching you how to document your dogs in photos and in videos throughout the course of their life for you, for your friends and family, and even for your social media. And we'll see you in our upcoming daily episodes, helping you to level up for your pup to give them the best life possible.